So my name is Alyssa Otis. I am a guide dog mobility instructor. So I am somebody who has trained these dogs for the last 10 years. I do their formal training, and then I also match them with the individual that they're going to be going to. Back in January, I moved into marketing and outreach, so now I get to walk around and tell people about what I used to do. So our mission is empowering people who are blind or visually impaired with lifelong skills for safe and independent daily travel. And what you're going to see throughout this presentation is, like our title, we are more than guide dogs. So we understand that everybody's independent travel looks a little bit different, and we're here to kind of work with each person individually on what that looks like. So who can we serve? One of the best things about Leader Dogs for the Blind is that we are 100% philanthropically funded. So we don't get any state or government assistance, no insurance money. So we kind of get to make up our own rules, which I'm a big fan of. So some places have vocational goals. You have to want to get back to work in order to get their services. We don't have that. We understand that either you might be past the age of wanting to work. You might be a stay-at-home mom, which is a lot of work. Also, we have no upper age limit. So we've given orientation mobility training as well as guide dogs to people who are well into their 80s and 90s. We also don't have a limit on number of service hours. So we understand that through the state, you might get, 2 hours here, and then another month goes by, and then you might get another hour. Coming and getting services from us does not take away any of the hours that you guys are able to get through the state or through any other agency. It's completely not related. And then we also have no formal referral necessary. So all you simply have to do is want our services and apply for our services. We don't need to hear from your O&M specialist saying that they are referring you to us. So some of the programs that we offer, obviously Leader Dogs for the Blind, guide dogs, but we also have our orientation and mobility program. It's been around for a little over 20 years now, and we have 11 certified orientation and mobility specialists on staff, which is a huge number. We also have a teen summer camp that I'm going to just touch on briefly as we get later on in the slideshow here. So on the screen here, we have a lady who's hugging her black lab guide dog. He's in harness, and they're both kind of looking at the camera. She's smiling. The lab looks a little serious. Yeah, as labs do oftentimes. There was no food in front of him. So some of our options for our guide dog program. We have our on-campus program. That's a 3-week-long program, and that's our most comprehensive program. That's a 3-to-1 ratio of instructors working with clients. So people come from all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, Spain. We pay to fly everybody into our campus in Rochester Hills, Michigan. We have 30-plus bedrooms that each have their own bathroom. We have a nice outdoor area. We have a gym in the basement. We have a kitchen staff that cooks you a different meal every single meal for 3 weeks. They also are really good with different diet restrictions and all of that as well. We have an in-home delivery option. So we understand that not everybody can leave from their home for 3 weeks, whether they have a medical reason that they have to stay at home, or if they're a primary caretaker, or if they just simply can't leave for whatever reason. We do have our in-home delivery option, which is where an instructor would bring a guide dog to your home, again, anywhere in the United States or Canada, and they would work with you. That's a 10-day program as opposed to 3 weeks because it's one-on-one with an instructor. So you get a little bit more time working with them so we can kind of condense that training. Next, we have our Flex program, which is kind of the best of both worlds. So that's for somebody that wants to come into our campus but maybe can't stay for all 3 weeks. So they can come to our campus, get those fundamentals and those basics down while they're not worrying about all of the responsibilities at home. While all they're having to do is worry about them and their dog. Then after about a week to 2 weeks, they'll go home with an instructor and work in their home environment for that last week or two. In their home environment, working on things such as getting the dog acclimated to your neighborhood, working on routes that you have. So that's kind of the best of both worlds, and we can meld that however it works best for somebody. Also, we have our adaptive services and deaf-blind team. So we have a deaf-blind program for anybody that might use American Sign Language. We have guide dog mobility instructors that are also certified interpreters. So the instruction is not coming from a third-party interpreter, it's coming directly from the professional who knows about guide dogs. We also work with people perhaps that have traumatic brain injuries in that department, somebody who might have limited mobility of their left side, and instead of that being a 3-to-1 ratio, that's a 2-to-1 or a 1-to-1 ratio, really depending on what each individual person needs. Next, we have our orientation and mobility program. So on the screen, we have a picture of a young lady who's walking with a long white cane down a sidewalk, and kind of behind her is her certified orientation and mobility specialist. A lot of people don't know that we have an orientation and mobility program, but not only do we have one, we've got a lot of different options. So up on the screen, I've got listed all of the different O&M options, just like we kind of have different guide dog options. So the first is introduction to O&M. For somebody that wants to come and get our services, you don't even ever have had a cane before, or held a cane, or know how to fold one up. We simply can teach you from the basics. Everybody that comes in is offered, whether they want it or if they have one of their own, a long white cane. So if you have one that you enjoy using on your own, great, we'll totally work with you with that. But if you don't have a white cane or you want a different one, we'll also supply that. Again, everything is free of charge. And we'll also let you try out a bunch of different cane tips to kind of figure out what works best for you. Again, just like our guide dog program, these are clients from all over the United States and Canada. Everything is completely free, including the cane. Next, we have O&M brush up. We understand that some people may have had services in the past, and it's been a while, and let's be honest, environments change, traffic patterns change, vision changes, and you might need a brush up on those skills. Also, sorry, little hard time hearing, no problem. So O&M brush up is good for people who perhaps have had training in the past, but it's been a while and they need a little bit of a refresher course. It can also be really good for people that have had a guide dog, because we understand that when people travel with a guide dog, oftentimes they're not using their cane quite as much. And then when they don't use that guide dog anymore, they may have lost some of those skills. So that's our O&M brush up. Our O&M for guide dog readiness is a program for somebody who might be interested in getting a guide dog. So these aren't necessarily things that you would check off which one you want. These are just kind of ideas on how to guide you in your O&M journey. So this is all a discussion that you would have with your O&M professional at LeaderDog. But O&M for guide dog readiness is a program for somebody who, like I said, might be interested in a dog, but wants to know what are the exact skills that I need. So your O&M professional will sit down with you and go over those skills that you might need if a guide dog is something that you want in your future, and then they'll help you get to that point. Next is advanced O&M. So that's for somebody maybe that wants to include technology, maybe a GPS, maybe they travel all over the United States and they're in different environments every week. How are they going to kind of learn how to travel in each environment that might be different? Maybe they live in New York and they want to take the subway, so something that just might be a little bit more advanced. And then lastly is a really cool thing that we just started called in-home O&M. So similar to the guide dog in-home program, we realized that not everybody can come to our campus in Rochester Hills. So we have a lovely gentleman, I don't know if any of you know Barry Stafford, but he is based out of Texas, and he travels all over the United States and Canada doing 1 week long in-home orientation and mobility training. So in the summertime, or currently rather I should say, we have about a 1.5 to 2 month wait list. In the winter, there's less of a wait list, less surprise, less people want to come and travel in the snow. But if snow is something that you have in your home environment, most of you guys, I'm assuming, do, living probably pretty close to here, it's not necessarily a bad thing to come and train in the winter either. Another thing that we have that I'm just going to touch on briefly is our youth O&M. So this is something that we started last year, and we did it for 1 week. This year, we're going to be doing it for 3 separate 1-week sessions. This is for 16 and 17-year-old youth, and they get to come to Leader Dog, and they bring a support person. So they bring, whether it be a parent. Last year, I think 2 of them brought parents, and 1 brought an older brother. But you can also bring your orientation and mobility specialist, really whoever that support person in your life is. And we fly both people to Leader Dog, again, completely free for the support person as well. And you have kind of 2 separate tracks. There's one for the youth who's learning their orientation and mobility skills. And then there's one for that support person that's learning, what is my student capable of? What do they want to learn? What are some things I can do? Where can I stand while we're walking to help them? So it was such a successful program that we're going to do it for 3 weeks this year. 1 in June, 1 in July, and 1 in August. Next is our teen summer camp, and that's different than the youth O&M because this one, there's no parents. This is just that. It's a summer camp for kids, or for teens rather. So again, 16 and 17-year-olds, we fly them here. And it is 1 week long of, yes, we include orientation and mobility stuff and leadership skills, but it's also rock climbing and beep kickball. And last year we did a zombie apocalypse that I hear is coming back this year. There's a talent show. So it's just a really good opportunity for people that are going into that final years of high school and kind of that transition period to not only get those skills of orientation and mobility, but to also meet people that honestly, they truly do have lifelong friendships. Like a lot of these kids, this is from 2019, this photo. It's a photo of, God, there's got to be 15 different kids. Some are standing with canes and some are kneeling with canes, and there's a large tree above them. But they still talk to each other, a lot of these kids. So I've never heard anything bad about our teen summer program. During that week also, they get an entire day to work with a guide dog mobility instructor and a guide dog to see if that's something that they might be interested in the future. And I can tell you, one of the people in that photo came back and I gave her a dog. So next is our application process. So all of our programs, you have to be 16 years or older, and you have to be legally blind. However, we do have a small caveat to that. So because we don't take any funding from anybody, we, again, get to make our own rules. And with our orientation and mobility program, we say as long as your travel is impacted by your vision loss, we want to be there to help you. So even if you are not technically legally blind, or maybe you're on your way to being legally blind, you're just not quite there yet, that is still fine. You can still qualify for our services. So if you're not sure, call us, email us, because we will gladly talk you through that. You have to be able to administer your own medicine. We don't have a medical professional on campus except for during teen summer camp. Self-care skills, which is usually not an issue with our adults. It's more so with teens. We just want to make sure we have our own laundry machines that are free to use, but that you guys can, do laundry and all of the basic care that you might need while you're there. You also have to be 6 months free of seizures or fainting. It's just kind of a safety precaution. And then you have to be able to walk 30 minutes sustained at least 4 times a day. So the training is quite rigorous. However, if for some reason you can't do that, again, still call us because we'll be willing to work with you and figure out what we can do to still help. Some of the application requirements. So our application can be found on our website, leaderdog.org. And I'll also have some contact information here that you guys can contact, and we can send it to you via email or snail mail, whatever works. The application is a little bit different if you're applying for orientation and mobility or for guide dog. For guide dog, it's a little bit more intense. We ask for a few extra references just because there's going to be another living being. We ask a little bit more about what you do on the daily basis so that we can make sure that we match you with the right dog. We ask for your preferences because we want to, again, match you with the dog that you want. Whereas for the O&M application, it's okay if a lot of your answers on there are, I don't really travel independently. We're not looking for that independent travel. That's what we're there to help you with. So it is slightly different with the guide dog application. Release forms and waivers are just a part of that application, such as, media release and all of that kind of stuff if you guys want your photos, being used on our stuff like that. A medical packet and a vision evaluation. So we understand that doctors sometimes are hard to get in touch with, and it's tough to sometimes get those papers in. Our client services representatives can also be in contact with your doctor's office and help get those papers sent to us, just to kind of take one more thing off you guys' plate. References, again, we ask for a few more for the guide dog program than we do for the O&M program, but the main reason is we are bringing people from all different walks of life, and we just want to make sure that everybody's going to be respectful to everybody else who's there receiving training. And then lastly is our video. So for our orientation and mobility, again, we're not necessarily looking for that independent travel. We're mostly looking to see stamina, balance, and those types of things. For our guide dog program, and in the application it is listed out what we want to see in the video as well. But for our guide dog program, we are looking for a small tour of your house or your apartment just to make sure that it's a safe place for a dog. We're looking at your pace so that we can match you best with a dog that walks the same speed as you. We're looking at some of the routes that you do to make sure that we're picking a dog that fits into your lifestyle. So the dog video is a little bit more lengthy than the orientation and mobility video. For those that might not have somebody that can take video, usually the Lions clubs that are local will come out and will help. You guys all live fairly locally, so if one of us needed to come out, we could always come out and take your video as well. We're not looking for anything edited. If we get something crazy edited, we send it back. We're looking for an iPhone video, a cell phone video. We want to see just the real raw travel. We're also not looking for perfection. So if you're applying for a guide dog and you happen to veer at one of your crossings, we want to see that. We just want to see that you can then get back on track. Next are some additional resources that we have. So during COVID, we had to get kind of clever with certain things that we could do maybe online to keep people, interested and get the message out there. And they actually did so well that we are now continuing them. So on the screen, we've got our virtual learning. So it's set up into 4 different areas. The first is prospective clients, and that's a video of a lady wearing a black leader dog face mask and holding her white cane off to the side. If you were to click on that, it takes you to a bunch of different videos. Some are fun, like descriptive yoga, but then there's also ones like, is it time to use a long white cane? What is O&M? Some testimonials from clients that perhaps were hesitant to come in to campus and then decided to. We have a full campus tour on there, so you can kind of know what you're getting into before coming. Next, we have an area for our graduates, and there's a photo of a young lady sitting on a bench with her yellow lab in harness next to her, both looking at the camera. And this has things, recently we're adding what to do when I have to leave my house and I'm not taking my guide dog. What is just some extra care for my dog? What are some testimonials, again, from graduates that have gone home? And we're always looking for ideas. So if you guys can think of anything you might want to know, let us know, and we'll throw it up there. We also have a family and friends section. And the photo there is 4 adults sitting on a couch with a young lady sitting on the floor. And she has both her brother and her sister's guide dog sitting on each side of her. And I actually gave both her brother and sister those dogs. A lovely family. And so that is an area where you can go for your family to kind of get support. So a lot of people rely on a family member until they come and get services. And once they come home with that newfound independence, they still might need some assistance from their family members, of course, but that can be tough sometimes for the family members. So in there, we have a bunch of different testimonials from family talking about that exact thing, and how the independence of their person has kind of changed their role as well. And then last, we have an area for blind rehab professionals. The photo there is a certified orientation and mobility specialist with a blindfold doing a guide dog walk with 2 guide dog mobility instructors next to her. And this is a good area for anybody who is a blind rehab professional that might need continuing education credits, because those are free continuing education credits for somebody that might need them. We send you a certificate and everything. Next is our collaboration events. So these collaboration events are held the third Wednesday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so the photo on the screen is a gentleman learning how to use his guide dog. He's getting ready to cross a street, and his guide dog mobility instructor is standing next to him. And so every month we pick a different organization, and we have a 1-hour Zoom collaboration event where this, let's see, I'm trying to think of who we have. We have Insight, I believe, next month, and we had Vispera last month. And they kind of talk about what they do, and then once they're done, Leader Dog talks a little bit about what we do, and then we open it up for questions. All of those collaboration events, like I said, are national brands, national groups. So we have people that join from all over the United States and some that join from Canada to listen to those. And then lastly, I can't leave without talking about our podcast. It's getting ready to go into season 5. It's got our logo on the screen, which has 3 cartoon dog heads, a golden, a German Shepherd, and a Labrador, all with those big kind of headsets on them, the sound booth headsets. And it says "Taking the Lead," and then it's underlined by a long white cane. So we used to do these every single Thursday, and we talk to clients, we talk to volunteers, we talk to, puppy raisers, basically anybody that has anything to do with our organization, and just kind of have a candid conversation with them. The next one is starting up, I want to say right after summer, will be season 5, and we're actually going to be going to every other Thursday. But you can find those anywhere that podcasts stream. Apple Podcasts. We also just put them on YouTube. So. And then last is just our Leader Dog logo with Leader Dogs for the Blind written underneath it. And then my name, Alyssa Otis. I am a GDMI, so that guide dog mobility instructor, as well as outreach specialist. And then it has my email as well, which I do have a booth upstairs that I can give everybody contact information if interested. Whew, all right.
That was a lot of really great information.
A lot of information.
Can you all hear me on this mic? No? Yes?
Okay.
Vaguely. Some people can, some people can't. All right. Well, I have this mic because I'm going to open up the floor for questions for Alyssa. So if you have some questions, just raise your hand and I'll come on by. Just wait for the mic so you can talk into it.
Thank you so much. That was really, really informative.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, are there any ways to test drive a guide dog?
Great question. So she asked if there was any ways to test drive a guide dog. So if you do come in for our orientation and mobility program and a guide dog is something that you're interested in, then usually on that last day, on Friday, you do get to walk with a guide dog mobility instructor and a dog to kind of test it out and see if that's something you're interested in. There's not really another way to do it unless you come in for our orientation mobility program, though. We also, though, have had people that think they definitely want a guide dog, they're set on it, they come in to receive, they apply, they get accepted, they come in to receive a dog, and while they're there for those 3 weeks, they realize maybe it's not for them. No big red X goes on anybody's record, it's no big deal. We'd rather you decide that now instead of going home and then realizing it. However, if you ever did go home and realize that it's just not working out, we are there for the entire working life of that dog. So for anything that you might need. So.
See another question. Here I come.
What if you haven't been around a dog for 40 years? Do you give instruction on, how to take care of a dog?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of lessons that we send out prior that talk about the care, how to interact with a dog, all of the basic stuff. But also when you come to campus, we will work with you on that. I've had people that have come in that have been slightly afraid of dogs coming in for a dog. And it's something that we'll definitely work with somebody on. It's also something that we take into account when we're thinking of matching. So if somebody maybe is a little hesitant or hasn't had a dog in a while and either can't really quite remember exactly how to take care of a dog, or a high energy dog kind of freaks them out a little bit, we'll take that into account and perhaps we'll give them a more low energy dog. So we really try and match somebody with the perfect dog. We also have a very strict schedule that we stay on when we're on campus, as far as we wake up, we relieve the dog, then we feed the dog, then we water the dog, then we have human breakfast, then we go out to train, then we come back and we relieve the dog and we water the dog. So we go through that schedule over and over like a broken record, just so everybody can feel confident in that care for the dog. We always get the question of, how does somebody pick up after the dog? We will literally stay with you for those 3 weeks during every relief time if we have to make sure that you know how to do that before you go home. We show how to groom effectively, and we give you grooming tools to take home. We show you how to do dog massage. Unfortunately, it's where you massage the dog, not the other way around. But we truly do break it down. And then when you are in for guide dog training, at the end of every week, you have a meeting with your instructor and you get to ask those questions, and you get to say like, hey, I'm not really feeling comfortable with brushing my dog's teeth. Can we do a little bit more one-on-one time with that? Absolutely. So it's a lot of it is just open communication, making sure you feel comfortable. But yeah, we go through all of that.
Any other questions? I see one. All right, I see a couple.
So how do you go about matching a dog with a client that is overly attached to dogs in general? And
I remember you from
maybe
the booth.
prone to treat the dog like a child instead of a working dog?
Well, actually, a really good point. So one of the things in our virtual learning, I believe it's under prospective clients, is the matching process. So I highly suggest going and watching that. Honestly, everybody treats these dogs kind of different. Some people treat these dogs as their babies, and some treat them as a mobility aid. And the instructors feel fine with either way, you know, as long as it's not interfering with the dog's work. And they will let you know if it's interfering. You know, if we notice that you're giving too many cookies and you're just throwing a cookie on the ground and letting the dog chase it, you know, we'll bring those things up, like that might not be the best thing to do for a guide dog, and this is why. But truly, everybody really behaves differently around the dog and kind of treats the dog different. So I've had people that get their dog made on custom socks. I'm not just talking about me. You know, and then other people that truly do just treat it as a mobility aid that they also have to care for.
All right, sir, did you have a question?
But are you aware of, this is not exactly dog oriented, but are you aware of anybody trying to come up with I'll call it a leader robot? In other words, it's something that would act like a dog would act in terms of avoiding issues or
Sure.
locating where you're going and routing you, but using technology?
Sure. So there are robot dogs out there now that I have seen on the internet. I will say that none of the guide dog schools that I'm aware of, at least in the United States, but I'm pretty sure worldwide, have moved on to that yet. Not to say it won't ever happen, but I don't think that'll happen in my lifetime. Yeah. There are a lot of different types of technology, though, that are coming out that can help. I know that they have canes, for example, that vibrate when you get close to things so that you know to turn away. So technology definitely is coming out, but I don't know about the guide dog one.
Do you match dogs with people who have young children? For example, I have a 3-year-old and another one on the way. So I'm like, I don't know how I would incorporate
Sure.
a guide dog into that situation.
Absolutely. We definitely have given dogs to people that have young children, babies. We will show you how to kind of pull the stroller behind you, and then the dog can guide from the front. But yeah, absolutely. We've given dogs to, honestly, any sort of situation that you can think of, whether it be they have multiple young children, they work in a preschool. I've had people that live on farms with wild animals, So truly, those are what we would consider a matching implication. So when you apply for a dog, that's something that you would want to write on your application. I have a 3-year-old and one on the way. A lot of people, I will say, like to kind of have that kid get through that first little bit I'm assuming it's a lot of work. And I'm sure it is. And so a lot of people will like to kind of get that handled before they get a dog. So just kind of thinking of that timing. But it's just a matching implication. And absolutely. We would most likely give you a more calm dog. Not that any of them are crazy rambunctious, but one that perhaps doesn't like to play with their mouth or anything like that. Absolutely.
Other questions? All right, Han?
Yep. Gonna come up.
If you could talk about the role that guide dogs play in lives, there's probably a lot of misconceptions.
Sure.
I've been in the process of obtaining a guide dog, and exactly what it does for someone,
Sure.
especially if you're low vision and you have enough to be legally blind but could use a dog and that kind of thing. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of misconceptions because there are so many different types of service dogs out there. So guide dogs are not taught to do things such as alert to blood sugars. They're not taught to pick things up off the ground. They're not taught to open and close doors. Their job is simply to get you from point A to point B safely. And so what that entails is making sure that they take you around obstacles. So say a kid leaves a bicycle halfway in the sidewalk. Instead of finding that bicycle with your cane, your dog would simply take you around it. You might not even know that that bicycle was there. They're also very helpful with veering. So dogs are taught to go from curb to curb, and that includes street crossings. So if you find a curb going into the street and you tell your dog forward, say you have a right tendency, you're pulling that dog to the right, that dog's going to pull you back to the left and keep you straight, and they're going to find that curb going back onto that sidewalk once you've crossed the street. Something else that they can do is keep you safe from vehicles. So this is people that may be pulling in and out of their driveway as you're walking on the sidewalk. Your dog's not going to stop at every single driveway because you would never get anywhere. But if they notice that a car is backing up, they're going to put those brakes on themselves, and they're not going to let you move while that car is in your way. We also teach the dogs something called intelligent disobedience. So that's where they disobey you because they're right and you're not. So one of the misconceptions is a dog knows when it's safe to cross the street. A dog does not know. That is up to the handler to whether it be if they're listening for traffic, if they're using a little bit of their remaining vision. However they cross that street, it's up to them to know. But unfortunately, we're not right 100% of the time. You might think it's safe and you might say, Juno, forward, and Juno doesn't go. You say, come on, Juno, forward. Doesn't go. All of a sudden, an electric car kind of comes around that corner that you didn't know was there. So we teach them to also disobey when they know better. And that's not just for street crossings. That could be, I don't know if I was going to say, we've all heard the story, but in my field, we've all heard the story of somebody walking to the end of a pier and being like, all right, Juno, forward. And Juno doesn't go. Juno, forward. Juno, and they step off and they go into the water. The dog didn't step off. The dog's, held their ground. So those are some of the common misconceptions for a dog. We do part of our deafblind program for people that have both hearing and vision loss. We do have the ability to also teach a little bit of hearing commands for door knocks and doorbells. So if you do come into our deafblind program and you qualify for that, that's something that you would be spoken to individually. But that dog would then guide and also alert you when somebody was at your door. But our general guide dogs don't do that.
Any other questions? All right, hang on. I'm on your right.
Oh, thank you.
Along the lines of loving the dog like a child, can you talk about retiring and how you could keep that dog in your
Sure.
life?
So after 1 year of having the dog becomes yours. So Leader Dog maintains the ownership for that first year just to make sure that there's no neglect going on, make sure that everything is working smoothly and that you guys are safe. Making sure that that dog's not getting too overweight. That I would say is one of our bigger things that happen to our dogs once they graduate. So if you've passed that first year, our dogs work from about 8 to 10 years. So your dog can retire, if we give you the dog at about 1.5 years, your dog can retire anywhere from 9.5 to, 11.5 years old. And what happens at that point is completely up to you. So some people live in apartment complexes where pets are not allowed, but a service dog is. Once that dog retires, they're no longer a service dog. They are, in fact, a pet. So there are some people that don't have a choice whether or not they have to get rid of their dog. Usually there's a very long list of their family and friends that want this dog, and the dog usually gets to stay in their life somehow. People that do have the ability to keep the dog are more than welcome to keep that dog. Some people will wait until their dog passes to get another dog. Some people will get a dog the day that they retire their previous one. So you can have a retired dog and a working guide in your house at the same time. For those people that don't want to keep their dog or don't have the ability to, you can always return them to Leader Dog. We will ask the puppy raiser, so the person that raised them for that first year of their life, if they want that dog back, which actually does happen sometimes, and it's a really nice full circle thing. If they don't, trust me, an employee is going to adopt them. So, yeah. Oh, she's going to come up with the microphone here for you.
Just a minute. Here it comes.
No. Yes. Say I had a dog and I passed, but my family wanted to keep the dog.
Yep.
They had to wait. They had to see if the person that trained them first.
So if it's been 1 year, if it's been over 1 year, then your family is able to keep that dog. If it is within that first year, the dog technically belongs to Leader Dog. It is kind of a case-by-case basis, of course. Sometimes those dogs will come back and we can reissue them to somebody else. So that is just something to think about. But usually if it's after that first year, a lot of the times the family will keep the dog unless they know that it was the handler's wishes to return the dog for somebody else, which sometimes happens.
All right, I see a question. I see 2 questions. Just a moment.
Okay, what if I have a walker? So how would I have a dog and I'll have the walker also?
Sure, so that's a great question. So at this point, we're not doing guide dogs for people in wheelchairs or walkers. However, if you had a quad cane or just a stability cane, that is something that we can work with. The hard thing with a walker is you need a free hand in order to kind of use that guide dog. And with a walker, it's hard to have a free hand. But if you can get to a cane, then absolutely, that's something that can be worked with.
I assume you assess people who are blind's readiness for a dog before they obtain the dog and assess their travel abilities. And like in my case, I found that if I use a scope, I can actually manage to see the walk, don't walk
Sure.
sign. And I think I had someone say, well, you seem to see too well for a guide dog. That kind of, what do you look for? And is there a case where someone is traveling too well or too
Sure.
poorly?
So every school or every organization is kind of different in that respect. But for Leader Dog, the rule for a guide dog is legal blindness. You can have remaining vision. You can use that vision to travel. The difficult thing with having a lot of remaining vision and traveling kind of falls on the handler. So for example, say you do have enough vision to see that there's a bicycle on the sidewalk as you're walking with your dog, and you take your dog around it because you just know that it's there and you want to make your job easier and you just walk around it. And then maybe a year from now, you've lost that vision. Now your dog is going, well, I don't need to go around this. Dad's going to take me around this. So it's not necessarily something that would ever stop you from getting a dog. As long as you're legally blind, that's totally fine. You qualify. It would just be something for you to keep in mind, that you want to use your remaining vision to help the situation, not hinder it. And as far as how we kind of assess, we will look at your video and assess your travel abilities through that. If we have any questions about that, we'll call you. We might ask for another video. If you're local and we have questions, we might come out and visit you and just see how you travel. If you've come in for our orientation and mobility program, we will also look at the report that was written when you were here, to see, how you did with traveling ability. But yeah, for us, legal blindness is our limit. And a lot of people will oftentimes feel guilty, for taking, quote unquote, taking somebody's dog who needs it more. That is absolutely not the case. We don't believe that. Any sort of legal blindness is completely acceptable to come and get a guide.
Any other questions? Okay, just a moment.
Hi, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say, in my support group, I had a gentleman join who was very down. He was recently had lost more of his vision due to glaucoma, and he had to teach his wife to drive the boat and lost his job, and that was his whole attitude. He spent the summer at Leader Dog and came back in September with the dog. He's a different person. I didn't know him before, but I feel like he's more the guy he used to be, right?
Yeah.
He's still blind, but he brings that dog to every meeting. He's upbeat. He's cheerful. It was a stunning transformation for over the summer.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And we see that a lot, because yes, these are guide dogs, but they are also companions. When people perhaps see somebody walking with a dog, instead of going away from them, they kind of come towards them, whether that be something you want or not, just something to think about. But people see that dog and they want to kind of come and talk to you and get to know your story. I've had one client that comes to mind. I've given her now 2 dogs. And the first time I gave her the dog, she came in, she was quite down. She didn't really go anywhere, didn't do much. So I gave her a dog, a small town kind of dog, what she did on her every day. And then she called me probably about 2 years later, and she goes, I have taken this dog to 17 countries. I'm like, my God, I'll be your next guide dog. She's like, I've been on this cruise and this cruise. She lost 70 pounds. I mean, she just, her life completely turned around. And it's not always that, a magical and drastic story, but we do hear those a lot.
Just a moment.
What I'm going through is reverse. I was born low vision eyesight. So it's like me trying to train myself to realize I'm blind, because the way I saw, I thought I was seeing.
Sure.
And I still had to fight with it when I go, well, maybe people think I can see, because like they were saying, you walking, and, this person walking, doing.
That's it.
And so me, it's kind of hard adjusting to be legally blind, thinking in my mind, I see.
Right.
So I got, like I was telling you earlier, I got a little Shih Tzu.
Sure.
And walk around. And believe it or not, the blind leading the blind.
Right,
but
right.
we walking out regular little circle.
Yeah.
And
the dog will remember it.
He remembers. But when I really, really realize when I can't see is when I get away from my area that I'm familiar with.
Sure.
And I find myself sometimes panicking.
Yeah.
So that's where I am right now. I'm trying
Sure.
to, in my mind, adjust to the fact that I'm legally blind, and
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Blindness is different for every person, but it's not what you would see in a movie with somebody wearing just big glasses and just not, with a cane. It's different for everybody.
I have a hearing problem.
Sure.
So, it's like when you go, when you do something, it's like, I feel like, it's like a child. When you go to the stove, you don't know it's burning, but once you touch the fire, you're kind of scared.
Sure.
So now that I know that I'm blind in my mind, it gets scary sometimes. So I had to kind of encourage myself to get out. But
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're not around people that have the same problem.
Sure. They don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess what I'm saying, this helps.
Yeah.
It
well,
helps.
good. Yeah.
And at the same time, it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is really scary. And that's one of the things that we want to do is increase independence and just make it a little less scary for people. Because if you feel confident in your environment and you feel confident in your travel abilities, then some of that can go away.
Could you just define what you mean by travel ability?
So it basically how you travel. So if there's any, just how you get from point A to point B. So some people have the ability easily to get from point A to point B with their cane skills. Some people might not have those skills. And so that's what we want to increase. Yeah.
All right, time for one more question, and I see one over on the other side of the room. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Do people have to sort of combine using a guide dog with other navigational skills? Like, for example, if you're going somewhere you've never been before, obviously you still need a set of navigation skills to use.
Yep, absolutely. So a lot of people will use technology now. They'll use their phones. Sometimes they'll use somebody sighted to kind of help them. But one of the cool things about our dogs is there are certain things that they know and what we call generalize. So a curb in this city is going to be the same as a curb in another city. To them, you just as the handler need to know, okay, I have to go 3 blocks, so I'm going to hit 2 curbs before I get to my destination. So you still have to know your environment to some extent, whether it be via technology or somebody perhaps sighted, or you can heel your dog. And what we mean by that is not hold on to the handle, but just hold on to the leash. And you can use your cane. So say you're in school and you're going to the same classroom every Monday and you sit in the same chair. The first time, you're not going to know where you're going and your dog's not going to know. So you would just use that leash and you would use the cane until you found it, and then you would reward your dog at the chair, and that next time you came into class, your dog's going to just take you right to that chair.